When you think about what makes a legacy, it's not always about bricks and mortar. Sometimes the most powerful ones are built with something far more fundamental, like a simple bowl of dal. Today, we're going to dive into two incredible stories about mothers who, when faced with absolute nothing, cooked up a future for their children that would outlast them. Let's get into their incredible journeys.
This right here, this was the simple, powerful belief that guided our first hero. It's a line that really sets the stage for a story of pure grit and survival against some pretty impossible odds.
All right, so our first story kicks off in a place of deep loss, where a single recipe became an absolute lifeline. So let me introduce you to Sheetal. She once had a pretty stable life. Her husband, Manoj, he worked for the railway, but after a tragic accident, she was left a widow. And just like that, her entire world was violently turned upside down. And man, the struggle was real. When the government aid eventually ran out, she took any job she could find, washing dishes, cleaning clothes, you name it. But these jobs, they offered very little money and even less dignity. And then the final blow came when her daughter got sick, which wiped out the very last of her savings. She had hit rock bottom. And right there, in that moment of complete despair, a little spark of hope came from the most innocent place. Her daughter just said, "Mom, you cook for other people, why don't you cook for yourself? People love your dal fry." It was such a simple idea, wasn't it? But it changed absolutely everything. And this was Sheetal's first brave, defiant step into the world of business. 3,000 rupees. Now that number might not sound like much, but it held the weight of an entire dream. That's what it cost to buy a run-down, rickety old street cart. And to get that money, Sheetal had to pawn the only piece of gold she had left, her nosepin. I mean, she was literally all in. This absolutely had to work. So what was her secret weapon? It wasn't some fancy, complicated dish. Nope. It was a simple, honest-to-goodness dal fry made with desi ghee, onion, and tomato. The most important ingredient, though, the heart and honesty she poured into every single bowl. All right, now we get to the moment that proved her huge gamble might just pay off. 200 rupees. Now, I know it may not sound like a lot, but for Sheetal, it was a fortune. It was everything. As she put it later, that small amount felt like crores to her. It wasn't just money, you see. It was validation. It was proof that she could stand on her own 2 feet. It was, in her own words, a ray of hope. And that little ray of hope, it just started to grow. It all began with one rickshaw driver. Then word of mouth started to spread. Soon enough, lines were forming at her little cart. People swore her humble dal was better than what you'd find in a 5-star hotel. And the tipping point came when a food blogger discovered her, and her story just went viral. Sheetal's journey is just, wow, it's such a powerful testament to a mother's resilience. But what's really incredible is that her story isn't unique. At the same time, another mother, Annapurna, was on a parallel path of sacrifice. Let's meet her. And when you look at their stories side by side, the parallels are just striking. Both women found themselves alone, raising children. But where Sheetal built a business to survive day to day, Annapurna poured every single ounce of her being into her son's education, hoping he would build a better future. Both were fighting for that next generation. Annapurna's sacrifice was total. She worked as a cook, just like Sheetal, but for other people. She'd wear these old, torn saris just so she could save every single rupee for her son Roshan's college fees. Her entire life was dedicated to his success. And this is where the story takes an absolutely heartbreaking turn. After Roshan graduated, got a job in the city, and got married, he just forgot her. The calls stopped. Annapurna was left all alone, completely shattered by the son she had given every last thing for. But then, years later, Roshan came back. He'd lost his job, he was broken, and what did Annapurna do? She didn't scold him. She didn't remind him of his neglect. She simply held him and said, "Don't worry, my blessings are with you." That's unconditional love in its purest form. So here's the crucial point. You have these two very different paths of sacrifice and forgiveness, but they ultimately converge to build something truly, truly lasting. And for both of them, the journey really followed these 4 stages. It all starts with something small, an act of desperation. Then, it grows through authentic hard work, and the story gets out there. That little idea solidifies into a permanent, real establishment, and finally, it's passed on to the next generation, who proudly carry that torch. Just look at how this all played out. Sheetal passed away peacefully, leaving behind a thriving restaurant that her children now run. And Annapurna, before she passed, gave her life savings to Roshan, which allowed him to open a restaurant in her name, Annapurna Bhojanalaya, which became famous for her signature dal.
So in the end, both mothers, starting with pretty much nothing, created these enduring legacies. Their currency wasn't money, it was hard work, it was sacrifice, and it was the love they poured into their food and their families.
And that brings us to this final, beautiful thought. It just perfectly captures the spirit of these two women, and really mothers everywhere, whose love just remains steadfast, no matter what the circumstances are.
So, I guess that leaves all of us with this one question. If it's not money or fame, what is the true recipe for a legacy? Perhaps, as these stories show us, it's as simple as a taste of home, seasoned with a lifetime of love.